Hello and welcome to episode 169 of the Imperial Truth. I'm Greg. Joining me as always, Mr. Howard. Hello, Howard.
Hi, Greg. We made it. We made it onto a show. Look at this.
We made it. Yeah. Apologies. I'm ill. Yay! And have been for a considerable amount of
Why
time.
do I automatically laugh at that? I don't know.
Yeah,
It was cruel. It's very thing. He's ill, but he's powering through.
We were going to be roughly on schedule as well last time, and then it was like, oh, I'm in hospital for 2 weeks. Okay,
We were so close.
Come out for 2 weeks.
We were so close as well.
Weeks. Yeah, and it's still not done. So, life, hey, it is what it is. I mean, not a bad period of time to not be talking about Heresy, bearing in mind most of it was 40k. So, it could be worse.
Yeah, people are focused on that now.
But we are going to try and catch up and get the shows out. So have no fear on that one. Before we go anywhere, Element Games for all your plasticky toy goodness, whatever you want from any million T game systems.
Well, at time of recording as well, it's quite a good time, and I haven't actually been on their site today, but it's quite a good time to perhaps go and see if they've got any lingering stock of Aeronautica Imperialis.
Oh yeah, some of that. Well, yeah, some of that went before it was even part of the last chance to buy. But,
yeah, quite.
Yes. Yeah. Whether it's that, whether it's paints, whether it's tools, whether it's it's just hundreds of GW are ramping it up again. I think they're trying to catch up to their planned schedule pre-COVID. Yeah, and then pretty soon Legions Imperialis as well, which we'll talk about later.
Oh yes,
so, plenty of stuff, and Element just great as usual. I've just done the bulk order for the club's brand, the handbooks for Age of Sigmar. So
nice.
A group of them come in and all that.
They did Element sorted me out very nicely with mats for Titanicus. Bizarrely, it was before the recent announcements, I ordered a 4x4 of the deep cut Titanicus mat.
Right.
And then while it was in transit, I was like, because I pounced on it while it was in stock, funnily enough. And I was like, Epic may not be that far away, and that's probably going to be on a 6x4. I've made a mistake here, because you can play 4x4 on a 6x4. So thought, okay, I'll stick with it. The more I thought about it, it niggled at me. I was like, okay, fine, I'll see if someone locally wants the 4x4 rather than sending it back. Element were superb about it. They're like, yep, send it back if you like, no problem at all. We'll exchange it, no trouble at all. It's far easier. I was able to move it on to someone locally who was keen, but so I went and ordered the 6x4. Then along came Epic, which announced slightly sooner than I expected.
We will talk about that in a little
bit.
But
Element could not have been better about that, and one of the few, and possibly only now, I think, stocking deep cut mats.
Right.
So a good thing to check out again in preparation for all sorts of game systems coming along.
Indeed. Yeah, it is wonderful. Have you been managing to do any hobby?
I actually have.
Oh,
Who knew? There was the wonderfully named by your good self Mike Fest took place.
Oh yes,
a couple of weekends ago, which sadly you were unable to attend with your ongoing challenges. But we went along to that, so we've had a trip to Warhammer World to celebrate friend of the show, or I think it's probably a bit more than friend of the show, but Michael, who was doing the book reviews, Track of Words, as others may know him. It was recently his 40th birthday, and for him and another good friend of ours, both wanted to have a trip to Warhammer World in Nottingham. So we had some games there, took the opportunity to pick up a few Titanicus bits, and finally got my hands on Exodus, who I've built now, which is a very cool little model to be doing of an evening, and suddenly realizing also that all the some of the more exotic Titanicus weapons are made up of a lot of bits, aren't they? When you've got an hour or two in the evening after everyone's gone to bed, I'll do some hobby. I'll definitely build a load of these weapons. And then you realise there's 15 bits just to make one Warlord weapon. Tiny little wires, and they do look awesome, to be fair.
I've been really slack with buying just Titanicus weapons. So there's been like a little list I've been meaning to buy for ages, but maybe I won't have to. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I can do it in a different way. moving forwards. But yeah, it was the last 2 times I've tried to go to the Belfry, I've been horribly ill, which is a bit annoying.
Belfry was
Heresy
weird.
Weekender and this.
Was very weird being there, and it wasn't. It wasn't a weekender. It wasn't an official event. So you're like, hang on a minute, where's all the people? Why aren't Forge World setting up a sales stand? What is this? It was slightly strange being there, having only really known it having definitely only known it. I actually went and used the pool and things. It was so weird, but it's cool to be in Warhammer World. That was in good form. They've reconfigured it since the last time I was there. Got a chance to go around the exhibition, which is always fun. Always good to see as they update it fairly frequently. And yeah, hobby-wise, I've actually got a few bits to put together with them. Rushed a kill team to go together. It's not. I can't mention that on this show. It's not Heresy. And
You know what's really annoying?
Titanicus mainly.
I started to collect my sprues, so knowing I was going up to GW, I was like, well, I might as well take these up and recycle them.
It's a good idea, yeah.
And then, I'm like, when am I going to go up next? Probably late October. Yeah, late October will be the next time I'm anywhere near that venue. We haven't got a recycling place nearby, so I'm like, I'm going to have to find somewhere to store these and take them up and chuck them in the recycling.
What's your nearest store?
Tunbridge Wells don't do it, I don't think.
Oh, do they not? Okay.
No, there's not that many. There's a few, but it's still a trial thing, isn't it? So,
I suppose, yeah. I did see the bin there, and it was being used, which is cool.
Yeah.
I think the one in Tottenham Court gets used as well.
Yeah. It's a little bit funny that they're getting bases made for free, or for based off of what we're giving them, and we're going, oh, we recycle, that's great, and they're like, yep, cheers for that.
I'm all for it. Yeah.
I mean, it's pennies and pennies and pennies.
Chuck it in the bin. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a hard one because the weight, the amount you'd have to give to even get a penny back, is not really.
And there's the logistics of dealing with it all. Yeah, but it's better that than it going in.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm not even sure it can be recycled if you put it in your own recycle.
Some do, but you have to check each individual because they're all contracted out, the recycling.
Yeah.
So, and that's if they don't just chuck the recycling in with the normal rubbish anyway, like some places commonly do. So, yeah.
Anything brought, even remotely contaminated, and off it goes. But so
or if they're just really busy.
Yeah, I did manage to get some hobby in it because it's yet again it proves that having a deadline massively helps. So knowing I was doing that and not wanting to be in Warhammer World and be like, I haven't brought any models, or I brought models and they're grey. It turns out I get weirdly obsessive over I must have exactly the right pose, so I just built. I just built 10 intercessors basically, and did them as an intercession kill team. Painted them up, but got the airbrush working again. Got the paints out. It was nice to be able to do that again, and hopefully that means I can actually crack on with some other things as well. As I did, might get the Alpha Legion going again, which would be fun.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I was in hospital for 2 weeks the first time, so I can't do any hobby. Came home for 2 weeks, losing an hour in a day sleeping somewhere in the middle and trying to do bits and pieces and not feeling great. So did a little bit of hobby, but not Heresy. Just trying to work. I kind of finish a project, get it done, kind of thing. So I finished my last Gargant, and then went back in for another 2 weeks. Great fun. No hobby for 2 weeks, and then come back out, and it's like, okay, what can I do? Well, get a project finished so I can go and look at starting a thing. And then with the announcement, went and grabbed some Aeronautica Imperialis planes and thought they could be undercoated, ready for me to decide exactly how I'm going to paint them grey. And
which Aeronautica planes did you get?
I've over time I've collected everything, so everything Imperial. So I've got
and did you just build some?
Hawks. No, they're all built. It literally just was like today. I was like, when I finish painting this Gargant, I need something to work on. So let's go and spray some stuff. Yeah. And the advantage of playing AT and having all the AI stuff is when Legions Imperialis drops, might be able to make a larger force that's not ideal because you put extra titans or planes in it, but you can play a decent sized game right off the bat kind of thing without having to buy loads and loads of little dudes. But I know Henry Steele, I've been chatting to him about this a lot, and I think Cult of Paint are going to have quite a lot of videos. I think there are. I can't remember what game system we were talking about, but I think it's out the window now because Legiones Legiones Imperialis is coming. So he's going to drop quite a few projects, I think, to make sure he works on that stuff. So I think you're going to get some pretty good videos.
I'm so excited. I actually tuned in to their video, to Cult's video, most recent one, in part to see what Henry's reaction was going to be, knowing that he's a fan. I didn't realize he got into. He's the same as me. He got into the hobby through Epic, and like again, he also. I echo his sentiment. The best war games experiences I've had have been through the Epic gaming system.
Yeah, I didn't play it a huge amount. I did enjoy it, but it definitely fits in that. I was trying to find out where. Yeah, we had a little bit of a chat about it, but yeah, he's pretty excited. So that's cool. That is pretty cool.
Because he's a man of taste. Good choice.
Indeed. He's an old man.
I felt personally attacked in the article, one of the articles they had on the Warhammer community the other week, where they said, if you're old enough to remember what a close assault factor is, you are officially old. It's like, damn you. You're right. Having gone to a friend's 40th birthday this week. So yeah,
what I like is there was one of those guys on one of the Discords I'm on was like, GW's predatory sales practices are coming out again. They're selling you nostalgia, and it's like, well,
yes,
Epic was a good game. Like,
yeah,
it might not be the same game, and it's like it's not just selling you nostalgia. It was selling you a game that, whilst might not have been popular enough to support the release schedule back then, probably will be now. Particularly bearing in mind they're, restricting their output with having it Heresy, that kind of thing. I'm like, it's not. This is not them dumping Space Hulk, which even then doesn't really qualify, but there was a definite amount of nostalgia purchase on that. But again, Space Hulk was a good game. It's not them dumping, let me think, like, they did have some games back in the day which weren't great, and just not changing anything or whatever. I've heard this game's going to play a bit different to Epic. Yes. There was a consideration for, do we just do a Blood Bowl? And the first release, just re-release. Epic Armageddon was a pretty good game.
It's an excellent game.
Well, yeah, I tell you what would be by buying just nostalgia if they released Battlefleet Gothic and didn't change any of the rules, because that is a game that needs to be updated.
Yes, you could use modern mechanics to turn that into an even better. It's an enjoyable game, and people would enjoy it. But you would enjoy it. You'd enjoy it because of the nostalgia of the period. I think it would start to creak when you start to play it, and you'd think, "Oh, this feels like this is
old.
This is now feeling clunky compared to what I remember it being."
With these carts everywhere, exactly. Yeah, so, the people who still play second edition D&D would love it. Most sensible people.
BattleTech is a great reference because I've seen a lot of people picking that up quite rightly because there's a lot of stuff going on.
The same people.
You see that? I'm seeing it. It just makes me think of the games conventions I used to go to 25 years ago, where it's usually in a school hall. It's got a lot of historicals being played, and you've got some laminated sheets with overhead projector pens, and people are marking off damage on those things, and you're like, "Yep, that's my memory."
They're the same people who say, "I play second edition 40k because it's a better game system," and you're like, "It's not." Like, objectively, it's not. Fine, have your fun, but don't try and tell me that it was much better back then, because
I do respect anyone who's still got templates with split pins in there. I respect that.
Yeah,
come on.
I mean, you could argue for other editions of 40k, later editions, that's fine, but second edition is a pain. That kind of attitude, really, and it's like, then they're selling you nostalgia, but and it's up to people. Like I've kind of got past that nostalgia thing quite a bit. I'm like, cool, awesome. Don't
Yeah.
need it.
Also, I don't see that as a problem. I don't see that as a real. I don't understand that criticism. I don't really take it as a criticism. Like, if you want to double down on
because
it,
it's just
yes.
churning stuff out.
Well, okay, and but it's just that people can make that decision themselves. I don't see that as a criticism.
Nostalgia in and of itself is not a bad thing.
No,
Yeah,
I think releasing something that not promotes, but celebrates something that we all enjoyed previously, and you want to get involved with that, crack on. Yeah, including re-releasing something else. I've got more of a problem. I saw someone discussing this the other day. I forget. I think it might be in the painting phase, where they were just touching on that when they released that last box of the previous edition of Kill Team, where you had the heavy intercessors. It was the first time you saw those facing off against some Necrons in a slightly dubious game mode, and you're like, this game mode doesn't really make any sense. It's a kind of update of Arena, and because of the way the schedule works, it was about a month or maybe 2 before Kill Team 2 came out. And you're like, oh, that's a little bit dubious. I've got more of a problem with that than I have with anything related to nostalgia.
Necromunda, Shadow, whatever it is, potentially. That's another one where...
Yeah. Shadow. What was that? Shadow War.
Shadow War, yeah.
Shadow War, which was the Necromunda system reskinned. Yeah, reskinned Necromunda.
And then very quickly Necromunda came out, and it's like, yeah. Oh, yeah, I understand they wanted to
and
sell
Kill Team.
it.
The Kill Team came along as well, and they were like, yeah, we won't do Shadow War anymore. We're going to put that in the bin, and then we're going to make a real point of the fact that we're going to be behind Kill Team for foreseeable years. And like, okay, interesting. But yeah, I don't have a huge lot of time. I don't personally agree with capitalizing on nostalgia, or even addressing nostalgia as an aspect of it, as a criticism personally.
But I think there's a definite aspect of if you're purchasing stuff like that because of nostalgia, like if it makes you buy something that quickly, that readily, then probably also need to kind of work on that a little bit. But hey, it is what it is. Right. Should we talk about what's happened in the last 2 months?
I think we should, otherwise, because there's a lot to wade into. So, how far back do we go there? We got May
going back
and June.
Yeah, pretty much. But there wasn't a lot in May because it was all built up to thingy. We did get. I don't want to dwell quickly on this. The Librarian came out, which I think looks better in real life. Like kind of, I've seen in people's hands. I think people are more impressed with it.
I've not actually seen it. I've not seen
I've seen a couple of people.
The one in reality, they didn't have any in Warhammer World. Those kicking around. I actually wanted to see that. So that wasn't kicking around at the time. But
we won't talk too much about the Decurion Sagittar and his price point. I think we can move on from that one.
I think it's best we do, isn't it?
I think most
they had loads of those in Warhammer World. That's surprising.
I'm sure they'll sell the odd one. But that was a little bit high. What was interesting is, as part of that 40k release, is finding out that they're basically removing a lot of the Heresy stuff from 40k competitive. So Knights are still in there, Custodes units are still in there where they're available. And I understand the resin stuff that they've dropped. Like Fellblaze Falchions, Mastodons, all resin. Xiphons, Fire Raptors, Storm Eagles, Stormbirds, resin. There's an issue with scale of purchases. If they become good, then Forge are going to. Basically, Games Workshop don't want to make resin if they can help it. They want it for
certainly not. Well, at the very least, they don't want to make it in volume.
No, absolutely. So it's made for lower volume stuff. No, not at all. And it's time intensive, and there's lots of failures. Well, relatively.
Yeah, that's what you mean by time. It's time intensive because you've got a massive QA/QC process to go through just to get it to be broadly right.
But there's a time just getting it out of the molds and stuff, and then you have to remake the molds as well. So I completely understood getting rid of all those big resin kits from 40k. I understand that. What was interesting is some of the plastics, like the Leviathan, the Contemptor. We're assuming the Derrida is going to come out in plastic. Kratos, Spartan, Sikaran, Typhon, all plastic now. It's an interesting one.
I know. I can see why they're doing it. It's predominantly it's a way of reducing the number of units they have to balance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they're already dealing with, what is it, 1,000, 2,000? It's a lot of different
it is a lot
units across these 28 factions, or whatever it is.
And I know they box all those kits up as Heresy, but I do feel a little bit of pain for people who they released they released plastic, Leviathans, which had rules for 40k, and then within a couple of months were like, yeah, you
Playing
can't
devil's
use it
advocate here.
anymore.
Playing devil's advocate, they still have rules in 40k.
They do.
They didn't take the rules away.
No. However, there are certain people whose whole gaming environment, whether it's due to them playing in tournaments and not having much time, or whether it's their gaming group are set that way, who do play competitively. I don't necessarily think it's a bad move. I think there is a valid grumble to be had from a certain small part of the 40k community. But it is what it is.
What it effectively, I'm just reading the article, even just rereading it here. You just won't be able to use them at an official event, and potentially someone running an event.
How
you could still use it in a competitive? You could still use it in a match play game in a club.
Yeah. But if your club is 99%, I'm going to this event soon and I want to practice for it, bring a legal list. Which is legal? It's not uncommon, and it's a like the overreaction to it. Obviously, I'm just trying to be.
I didn't see. No, I agree, and I agree with you.
I'm just sort of exploring that.
I didn't see as much of a reaction as one might expect.
People went out and bought those contemptors, like to put in their own Leviathans or whatever, and we got a guy at the club who it doesn't affect him too much, although a number of our club do like playing competitively and do often practice tournament lists, because he's got a Mastodon and he loves putting dreadnoughts in it, and it's not necessarily the best army in the world, but he likes doing it, and it's like, oh, I might have to sell some dreadnoughts because how often am I going to get to use them? So there is an element of understandable grievance in a small part. Generally, it wasn't too bad. But you can see with like the decimators and all that going as well, I don't think they'll be brought into Heresy. Maybe some will. Potentially as a dark mech thing going forwards. But yeah, plus also Forge World are now making a new game which is going to need resin stuff. They're going to be making Old World, which is going to need resin stuff. Like there's only limited production capability on site. So they need to be able to cope with all those other things.
That was an interesting move. It did generate some interesting discussion. I was surprised that the number of people, and a couple in my gaming group, who were confused by it. Which made me think, hang on a second. Actually, yeah, there's some nuance to this, and there was people weren't sure what they could and couldn't do and what the impact of it was. They could see people were getting upset about it. They saw there was discussion about it, but didn't know what the reality of it was. I think the information was quite clear. But
yeah, okay. So the other grumble that I thought of, that I remembered, is so we've just had we're recording the day that the 40k points adjustments came out at the start of the edition. Lots of adjustments all over. None of those models are going to get points adjustments because GW forget about Legends. So
yes, well, they've said as much, haven't they? That they're not adjusting them.
So after a period of time, they become unusable one way or the other. Even in a match play environment, because their points become so out of whack. They're either too good or too bad. You lose when your points don't get adjusted.
I don't think that's an inevitability. But I think it happens.
It takes time, but they become and people ban them because do you then go through all of the legends and say which ones you're allowed, or do you ban the specific ones that are you just ban legends?
I can see I could see those units that are already out of whack becoming worse-ish, but relative to something else. So I can still see events just not including them.
You only have to look up certain of the models that have had huge point raises in 40k recently, and if because of a way a rule works or a style of an interaction, if one of those models has that and that sits there without that point raise because it's not a thing, then all of a sudden people buy them.
Yeah, okay.
It unkills things. But what it does show is that Games Workshop are happy that all of those models are sustained only from Heresy players. Really. That Heresy is doing well enough that, some 40k people are still going to buy them. Yeah, that's not, it happen. It will happen.
Because not everyone is playing only in a competitive match play environment.
No.
Or rather in a training environment for official events.
However, I think it shows the confidence in what Heresy's done over the last year, and that's what
the article that they put up announcing that was quite open about that and saying the Heresy range is expanding and will continue to do so. It's sort of suggesting there's momentum behind it, and as you say, there's confidence in it to say, well, we can't maintain that in a cross-platform world.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's exciting. It's cool. And then basically we jumped to 1st of July, the Warhammer Fest preview.
As you say, it was pretty quiet through June, wasn't it? There wasn't a lot going on other because they were launching 10th edition.
Indeed. So it makes me wonder.
I have seen, speaking of 10th edition, I've seen quite a few Indomitus Terminators cropping up.
So
including your own, I believe.
Well, my big plan was, bear with me a second. It was to get them painted up and actually, for once, go to get pictures of them and send them into GW if they wanted to use them, because they're showing, less talented painters now, reasonable paint jobs rather than top of the line paint jobs. But I got ill right at the start of having to paint them.
Point.
I was literally just going to paint the 5, maybe the captain as well. But I was like, okay, I'm not going to paint them. And now I'm like, I just give me the box, give me the new box with the weapon options, because that's what I want. And the different poses and the different things you can do with them. And then
that is going to be a good kit, isn't it? I mean, the kit in Leviathan is very good. The full kit's going to be even better.
I might have to look at some STLs for fur, shoulder capes things. Might have to look at a little bit of that a little bit of Space Wolfy on some of them. That's something that I'm considering doing.
Is it really a Space Wolf Terminator if they don't have a diamond set in the wing? Something weird about those little touches like that. Something few wolf tails.
Might be much, but the odd shoulder pad that's fur, draped. That kind of thing. Also for the 40k ones, because 40k I use, the only problem with the upgrade sets from 40k for the Space Wolves, like the shoulder pads, which I use, they don't have Terminator ones. And then you have to also, on Indomitus, you have to cut them off. They have Gravis ones.
Forge World did do an amazing. It was one of their best the little Terminator upgrade set for Space Wolves was really cool.
It's different, I think, from the. The Space Wolf Terminator upgrade set.
That's the one.
Was phenomenal.
It was really good.
I sold my Space Hulk, but I made a whole Space Hulk Space Wolf version using them, but I don't think they sell it anymore.
I wondered. Yeah, it's. I remember that being one of their better sets. That and the Death Guard upgrade sets and things, and then possibly the World Eaters ones as well. I used to see a lot of those in some really nice models. And the Space Wolf one was so characterful. It was brilliant.
The chests and everything. I've just hit Space Wolves into.
I think they would struggle scale-wise now. You could make them work.
A similar size. I think they're
shoulder pads, yes, but the torsos would be a bit of a challenge.
Torsos might be a challenge. Yeah.
I think they'd be because I've seen people doing Blood Angel conversions of the Indomitus set.
They're not,
and they're like the Carlian character. The chest is about a millimetre short on both sides. It's largely covered up because of the decoration on there, so you don't really see it a great deal if one was to sort of kit bash them. It might be something similar with the Space Wolf set, but it wouldn't look cool.
You can buy Mark 6 heads, but you can't buy any
interesting.
Terminator ups. I've even got
those were really nice, but they must have retired.
They were phenomenal, really good. And I'm a bit gutted I sold that. Oh no, because they're too small now. But I am considering getting quite a few Indomitus down the line for the route. So.
I've seen a few people talking about doing Indomitus an army of them, small army of them for use presumably in Zone Mortalis or something similar. Say Imperial Fists Indomitus list, similar as one I've seen floating around. You're like, yeah, that's starting to look really cool. They do look particularly good with the yellow and the white helmets and this one. That's perhaps 40k, but
indeed.
There's some very cool sets out there. So that was June. That was
indeed. Well,
out and about for that.
Yeah, and then the 1st of July we had a impromptu preview event, the Not 40k preview event, which I think most of us expected them to show the night Acheron, because it was the eBay had somehow got an upgrade sprue for the Acheron and the Flamer, so it makes sense to throw that one out here. But they gave us the Castigator as well, and wow. Plastic Knights, man, so much better.
Yes, and particularly that Knight, which can be so dynamic. Yeah, because it's so much more. Well,
I wonder
a bigger, leggier model.
Yeah, I think you're going to need more work with plastics because those points are going to be fixed. So it looks like the legs are going to go two ways, either left foot forward or right foot forward, like they do on the little Knights. But that's not a problem. I don't really care. Like, good sculptors can change that. Someone was saying I think Eddie was saying the belt feed on the Castigator is really flexible for the plastics. Yeah, so you can move that arm around a little bit.
It is. I'm just looking at it now. Actually, it's very segmented, so which would suggest you might get those sort of weak points in it.
A little bit more flexible.
Presumably, they may have actually looked at how the plastic would, because some plastic things you can bend. It's risky. You have to do it carefully, particularly if you were to put it in warm water or something similar. You might be able to do it, which resin obviously you had tendency to do.
Well, this component has been before. Both the Castigator and Acheron feature a large ammo feed or fuel tube that travels from the primary range weapon. This component has been designed to be fully articulated when built, meaning you can pose your thrustless Knights without worrying about two fixed connection points. So if they've done that well, then that's awesome.
That's quite a piece of engineering. That will be really interesting to see how they do that.
I mean, I say I've got a Lancer here that I bought ages ago, and it arrived from eBay in multiple parts, and I think I've lost a little bit of it now, and it's still in multiple parts because I just can't be bothered.
Fully articulated. Yeah,
I wonder if that's articulated and then glued into place, like
maybe, unless it is something where you can just sort of clip
maybe
one after the other, because it could be a ball and socket joint type thing between each piece. I'm looking at the Acheron in particular. Which would be a hell of a piece if they managed to do that.
Still got to attach them though, haven't you? So
fully articulated when built, not before. Meaning you can pose your.
It's a Warhammer community article. Like
all right, fair enough. Yeah. I see what you mean, though.
But I mean, either way, like if you can build that in lots of different ways, like if that is that maneuverable to move the arm around a lot,
it's a small thing. It's a small thing. I hadn't noticed. It's Knight related. I hadn't realised that they had a Knight and a full Knight and a Knight Armiger set that was Heresy specific. Which has got a really nice, particularly the Knight Armiger set, the Heresy, the Age of Darkness specific one, got a really nice transfer set in it. It's a really quite nice pack. I happened to see them at Warhammer World the other day, and they had both sets there. And they've got these really great transfer sets, so you don't have to go and get the 40k version of the Knight and the Knight Armigers.
Buy either version, yeah.
You can buy an Age of Darkness specific one, and it just so happens to come with a really nice, which is a minor thing, but really does make a difference, particularly with Knights. I mean, I'm looking at the preview images they had of the two Cerastus models, and they've got heraldry all over them, as you would expect with a knight. And it's just something about those. I had forgotten that they had released those as Age of Darkness specific boxes, because obviously these are models that are going to have, as with these two new ones, are going to be workable across ranges.
Yeah. And I can only assume then that we're going to get a Forge World upgrade for the what the other one, the Atropos.
Yeah.
Because if GW have got a frame, why make it all out of resin?
Probably more likely that that's going to be a resin upgrade kit rather than another frame, because it's quite a lot of addition. It's not just additional weapons.
Pads, guns, heads,
shin pads.
Yeah, a few bits. So I mean, you never know. Like the way they're going.
No, but it seems unlikely.
It depends what's on how the sprues are laid out at the end of the day. Depends if the frame's one or two sprues and then the other bits are on back.
Yeah.
It's hard to get right. We shall see, but that's fantastic news as far as I'm concerned. Plastic Knights. I mean, they're not the army they used to be, which is good as well. So,
before we go further with that, when did Cathonia come out? Siege of Cathonia.
Before we recorded last time, because it was in hand, but I haven't really had a chance to read it.
I have now read it.
Didn't. It came out the first week in hospital because I got Emma.
That's what I thought. I thought it's been out and about. Yeah, I have. Yes. I have read it, and I would recommend it. I mean, obviously, people have done different outlets have done reviews of Inductee, which are in there, which play a heavy role in it.
Yeah.
They've got the two characters, which came alongside it, and then the book itself. The lore in it is a really interesting read in this charting a battle that we hadn't seen before in any kind of detail. I found that really interesting. I found it quite a good storyline with some good characters in it, particularly the way they portrayed some of the forces that you wouldn't have otherwise expected to be there, or kind of how it unfolded, or even versions of certain forces that you wouldn't have expected to see them portrayed in that particular way. I wasn't a massive fan of it insofar as it took me out of it a little bit. Some of the lore had a tendency to do what I've seen in other public and more contemporary publications, where there was quite a lot of emphasis on the units that they were talking about in that book. So, for example, there was a little bit of, and then the inductee did this, and then the inductee, and funnily enough, they had inductee for this, and you're like, yeah, all right, we get it. That's what you're focusing on. It's nowhere near as bad as I found it particularly jarring in the Arcs of Omens books, where every time anything happened, it was, and then there was another boarding action, and boarding actions are very dramatic and exciting thing. Every time anything happened, it was a boarding action, and you're like, yeah, okay. The whole thrust of this arc of 5 books that you got is a major narrative beat, and the release of these rules for boarding actions, and you're setting them up obviously as a narrative for this particular version of the game. I get it, but could you tone it down a smidge?
Yeah,
just because it's coming across a bit hard.
I wonder if there's an element with Cathonia's Reckoning that it really is like the inductee I playfield. We'll see with the next book, I suppose. What I like about
it's a minor criticism, if I'm honest, but it's just one that I noticed.
What I like about the book is it's highlighted that there's just so much of the heresy that we don't know about. Like, we have this sphere of combats that goes on for 7.5 years. And what we know about is this one little snaking line that goes through with a few offshoots, essentially. And I've seen criticism. It's like, oh, they've just made this lore up, and it's like, well, I mean, it's all made up, right? If you want, if you want to go that far, it's all made up. But also, they've kind of alluded to, like, they've told you about. So, I mean, you only have to look at what was it, back book 4 with Paramar. Was it Paramar? Essentially. I mean, it was mentioned, but we didn't know what happened there. Like, that's the whole point of these books. Because they're going in and filling gaps doesn't mean they're, trying to. It's that whole just because you haven't heard about it doesn't mean it hasn't happened thing, which because of the historical nature of heresy, people get so protective of, well, we've never heard about this before. It's like, well, no, you haven't, because I haven't written about it. Like,
doesn't mean
yeah,
it
I mean,
didn't happen.
let's look at the real world. Like, stories come out from World War One, World War Two, from Boer War about stuff, and they come out 100 years later, and they're like, we just found this documents from this guy who was sent on a secret mission, and da 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 da. And you're like, oh, or even bigger stuff than that you just don't, because it's not talked about. You don't find out about it. It's not in common knowledge, and it's just pushed aside because it's not the main narrative.
And that's that was one of the parts that I really liked. It was that this is a major conflict that has a major significance. And they even deal with the fact that they are aware that something much bigger is happening just over there.
Yeah.
And they're having to deal with, well, is what we're doing here completely meaningless? And there's a whole point where they all have like an intake of breath going like, it's all gone a bit quiet over there. And the scope of it and the timeline it covers is really interesting. And it's extensive as well. There's a huge amount of lore in there. I'm not a quick reader, but it kept me entertained over several commutes to and from. It was really good. I would recommend it for the lore alone.
It's also interesting that a lot of people seem to think that the next thing has to be always the push to Terra. I think there'll be an element of focusing on the later stages of the heresy for maybe 1 or 2 books, which the second book will already have been written and the third book will be underway, and but there's no reason why they can't go and fill in the gaps. Absolutely no reason at all, and they will. I'm sure they will actually, as and when. I'm sure they got plenty of ideas of what's going on. But yeah, be good to see. What's interesting is, like, I don't know how big the Heresy team is anymore. Like, and I know it's not clear cut like that, but I know the writers write everything in the Age of Darkness now. So, Heresy, Aeronautica Imperialis, Heresy, whatever it's called, Legiones Imperialis, Adeptus Titanicus, all come under the Heresy team because they're all set in the Age of Darkness. Obviously, painters and stuff like that, specialist games have a different setup on how all that works. But you're seeing like people who it won't be their project, but they'll be kind of keeping interest in it. I'm sure they must have meetings and stuff where they get more input as they're going through. You would assume so, because why not? But look forward to more of those books. But we've spoken about it a lot. We should probably move on to, because we'll come back and do Chthonia's Reckoning at some point, I'm sure.
As a proper thing. Yeah, do it as a proper feature. Yes.
Yeah, we've only been recording for I don't know how long, but it's tiring me out a little bit at the moment. Jaundice is a killer. No, hopefully not literally, but it can take it out of you at times. Legions Imperialis.
Oh, yes. Now, we got a hint of this at Warhammer Fest. Yeah. Then there was this, as you said, this not 40k preview, which they released a quite amusing little teaser trailer for just before the reveal, a few hours before the reveal, where they played the Heresy trailer and played it in miniature with little high squeaky voices, which was highly entertaining, suggesting we knew what was coming. But I was not expecting, I don't know if you were, I was not expecting a reveal to be as big as it was.
No,
but I was delighted that it was.
Yeah, I expected like the teaser, like a proper teaser.
I thought we were going to get a trailer. Yeah.
Yeah, trailer. Yeah. But bearing in mind this book's coming out in August, they have to show us it. So a core set is coming out in August, which is what we've seen on the image, which is
core set with a capital C.
Yeah, a couple of Titans with their thinner bases, which were first accidentally shown off at the start of the year. Some what we got? Assault Marines, some regular troopers.
Well, first of all, there's two forces in there, isn't there? You've got
it's one force. It's one force.
Sorry, yes, a combined arms force, if you wanted to go that way. 2 factions.
Yeah.
Of half Space Marines, half Solar Auxilia, And as you say, 2 Warhounds with some interesting new plastic weapons on there. Quite a wide spread of units in the Space Marine side, at the very least, as you say, with command assault marines,
assault, and plasma unit as well, and a terminate cataphracti.
Heavy support as well with the missile launchers.
And then the dreads, contemptors, Sicarans of a couple of kinds, rhinos, predators.
No rhinos.
No rhinos. They they showed that's another predator. Sorry. 2 predators.
It's because that was one of the things I saw that someone noticed was no transports. So it's going to make it interesting because in epic scale games, moving stuff around.
Terminators need transport.
And basic foot marines as well. But because Terminators might be able to teleport.
Oh yeah, there's a couple of units. Yeah, maybe. But there's only a couple of stands, isn't there, of Terminators? So that'd be interesting.
You got 10 Terminators over 2 stands, 10 Salt Marines, which will move around reasonably quickly.
Solar Auxiliary with las guns, command squads, the combat dudes with the axes.
The
flamers.
Quite a few of them actually.
The Ogrins are nice. And then the heavy sentinels, which look interesting.
Yeah, new unit, which was cool.
The Lehman Russ various types, the Malcadors, and the Warhounds with the rocket pods and the Melter.
Yes, and plastic Volkite and plastic Ursa's Claw / Slot plants.
Exactly, which again, haven't bought mine, so that's a win for me. That's a lot. That's a decent. I mean, I can expect this box is probably going to be that 150 mark again.
Do you think?
But maybe a little bit less. I don't think it'll be cheap.
I could have seen it being. It would be great if it was 100. Realistically, it's going to be 120.
Hold on. Sorry. Do you get the book in it?
Yeah, you do.
You do get the book in it. Okay.
Book, templates, tokens. There's order tokens in it because it's. Well,
they showed that as well, didn't they? With the
they did.
Other bits, and we'll go into that in a second. I suppose the train. It's going to be over 100 quid.
Yes, it is. If they did it for 100, that would be great. If it's a core box, though, rather than a launch box. If it was a launch box, I'd say it was 150. If it's a core box, I could see it being a bit less.
Yeah, it might be right.
There's not as much plastic in that as there is in Leviathan, for example.
No, but it's also.
It's not going to sell the volume. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. Let me just have a look at how much are Warhounds. They're 45 quid for 2.
Oh, crikey! I was still thinking they were 30 quid each. Okay.
Yeah, that's 45.
All right, that's 100. That's 150 quid box.
Yeah,
no question.
I just think this kind of setup where you're getting a decent amount of stuff. I think it's 150 quid from GW. Obviously,
if it's less than 150, people will buy it in considerable volume, and people would snap it up. If it's 150, it's probably consistent with what you'd expect it to be.
And this is one of those boxes where you could buy multiples as well. Like with 40k, the start one, the push fit and whatever. And I don't like buying multiples because you're doubling up on a lot of stuff you might not want to double up on. But with the scale of Epic, 3 Predators, is that enough? 2 Sicarans.
Lehman Russ. Lehman Russ, are you even playing the game if you're not running 10?
10 in per unit, per detachment. Exactly. So there's a lot that could be doubled up on it quite easily.
I'm sort of, from that perspective, I'm sort of a little surprised that it's not a marine-only box. Then I think you could buy a lot of them in terms of multiples and to build up a force. The fact that there's solar in there, which you could have in large volumes, and the same with the Warhounds. As soon as you're like 8, you've got 8 Warhounds. You're like, that's more than I'm ever going to need, unless it depends how much you're playing on. Yes, you can, of course.
Well, I wonder if
that's more hassle,
I wonder if that's partly by design to stop people buying multiples of this and then go out and buy the actual boxes when they come up. rather than getting these cheaper in the big box kind of thing.
Mm.
Also, with the Solar Auxilia, it means you start with the Solar Auxilia force. So, are you more likely to add to that if you already own it?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, there's an element of that, I think, in there.
2 or 3 of these boxes, and you have got some really quite good sized meaty armies, because then you've got a few squadrons of predators, you've got a few squadrons,
solid base.
you've got a company of Lehman Russ. You're like, it's looking pretty cool. Then that's a lot of Marines running around. So but I mean that's a lot of money. You'd be dropping. The price point will be really interesting to see. And also, you've got 3 rule books. Then, as you say, then you're getting into selling your multiple things. But a pretty cool looking box set. One of the most overwhelmingly positive reactions I've seen for a release in a while. I didn't see any negativity. Maybe it's because of the circles I'm in.
Yeah, there might be a little bit of that. What's the point if they're not having Xenos in it? And that's fair enough if you want to play Xenos and you're not a fan
of I did. That's true. Actually, I can think of one person I saw who said that. But
similar complaint to AT. I get it. Cool, whatever.
But that's still those people. Even those people said this was a cool box set.
Yeah, I've seen some. Either way, but it's fine. Whatever. I think there's a lot of people waiting on to see how it plays, which is fair enough.
Which will be really interesting, because it's not, as we talked about before. An option here would have been for them to just say, we'll take Epic Armageddon and we'll bring that out as a new game system, and away we go.
Yeah,
it doesn't appear to be that. Bit like they've done, I suppose, with, well, not so much, but Titanicus was the Titanicus rule set from previously, whereas Epic's had a couple of different versions which are substantially different.
Yeah,
what was Space Marine, which became Titan Legions, then, in fact, it was Space Marine and Space Marine 2.0, which became Titan Legions. Then you had Epic 40k, then you had Epic Armageddon. All 3 of those are quite distinct. This appears to have, it's going to be different to all of them.
I did see someone talk about, what were they talking about? It was, did it need to do it? Is that, there's a strong player base already for Epic, and I'm like, there's a committed player base. I don't know if it's strong, and what kind of how they're going to react to it. All these people have got models already and stuff, and I'm like, well, Blood Bowl community were pretty entrenched in running their own game system, and there are elements of that who will not dive into particularly the 3rd new edition of Blood Bowl, but most people have, and the NAF's gone fully official with it and everything like that. So it's going to be a mix of people, but when you've got the differences, when you've got a game that's actively supported, and I said this, like, this is why 9th Age was never something for me. Unless you can go into a store, clearly you see it with popular games. You see it with some of the Kickstarters, particularly that get popular off the Kickstarter. You go into the shop, you don't really see it on the shelf. You don't really see it being played. It dies. It might take a while to die because there's these holdouts. But the games that get played, and this is why Games Workshop are top of the tree. This is why, you make one mistake with Privateer Press and less people play it, and then that's a snowball. This is why games disappear all the time. Visibility, and this will be the version that people get into, because how else do you find out how to play Epic? You have to go to a specific website, and you have to try and get specific models like that you don't know about, and try and get into this like secret society on how to play a game. But hey, it's all good. So we found out.
As you say, that the adoption of this is going to just make that, one would hope, given the way they can put resources behind things, we'll see a player base expand considerably. Getting your hands on models is challenging, to say the least, for a lot of people, where it just isn't worth the time. Yeah, of course you can. If you dedicate your time to it, you can do all sorts with existing Epic or otherwise. But having even just a rule book out there, a rule system that's supported, then with a line of models which look great is really exciting. And I think it's the right choice to set it in Age of Darkness as well at this time.
Yeah.
It bodes well for it potentially being something else if it's successful. But I mean, it's been
I think
theorized for a while.
it would have to fly to do that. I think there's it's a bit of a catch-22 in that if you don't make Xenos, you don't ever see the desire to sell Xenos, so you don't make Xenos. Which, but I don't know how you resolve that because I don't think they make it unless it's Heresy. So, it is what it is. But yeah, we've got confirmed epic scale, which is a quarter of the 28mm heroic, or people want to call it 32 and whatever. It's a quarter. Although when they put up the little image of the 4 dudes standing on top of each other, they also cover the base, so it's a smidge bigger than quarter. So lied to us. You've got, let's go through just what they've given us on these 10s. Hidden orders is an interesting mechanic to give out before the turn starts. So you got to try and predict what's going on.
The orders, because they've shown the back of the box in some of the promotional imagery or videos or otherwise. And using the wonderful zoom in, enhance kind of capabilities we've seen out there, the orders appear to be staples of previous editions of Epic. First fire, advance, march. There's various things you can do. Now, previously, that's been done through the classic Epic scale, and the Titanicus uses it now. Similar type of thing. The order dice suggests it's going to go back to using tokens, which you flip over. But as you say, it's an alternating activation, which is cool. Hidden orders, very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It adds a different dynamic to the game as well. It sets it aside from other GW games, which is not a bad idea.
And I think helps play into the larger scale strategic type of thing.
And allows
gives you that feel, doesn't it?
Yeah, allows some space to plan rules that affect those kind of orders you could do. You could easily imagine certain commanders being able to replace one order a turn on a unit or something like that.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, which is quite cool.
Certain units are forced to play their rules, to play their orders in the clear, if you like. Could be quite cool. And Vox things or something that allows you to do that. Or you've got spies or something operating in there. Something that would force you to do that. Or something that's highly predictable is always going to be this, but is more constantly more powerful in the thing that it does do.
We've got
cool design space.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of confirmation of the old Epic style as well, where weapons have specific roles, more so than like on a 28mm battleground, really. That it says here Titans will eliminate whole squadrons of tanks, but get failed by strafing aircraft in return. And then with objective markers as well, means I suspect you're going to see like infantry be able to. Your Terminators in combat with vehicles is going to end very badly for vehicles like it used to, even assault squads and stuff like that. And an objective-based game as well. You have to do that now, but it's good. But yeah, combined arms like your army, you feel like infantry are best for capturing objectives. I thought I'd seen it somewhere. Vehicles and super heavies are harder and deadlier, but to be good at a game, you're going to want a little bit of everything, and the balance of how you do that will be down to individual play styles and everything else as well. But that's good to see. Because I say again, assault cannons mow down infantry but can't hurt a Titan. Las cannons are best used against vehicles, but traditionally in Epic they never had enough attacks to really hurt big squads, things like that. So that kind of granularity when you're dealing with Titans not granularity, but that kind of distinction of what weapon types do what helps the game feel like that big scope. Why are you firing your single las cannon at those assault marines? Because it's a waste in a bigger battlefield when there's bigger targets. And then formations. Formations is essentially an entire Horus Heresy army, giving you lots of freedom to build your force. So Yeah, you can have detachments of area assault and detachments of tank companies and.
So your detachments are the individual squad equivalent or unit
formations
equivalent.
of
And then formation is a collection of detachments, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And then you can have different formations within what you're doing.
So you could have multiple, presumably, I'm guessing here, but you presumably could have multiple formations in your army, depending on what game size you're going to play.
Like an assault formation could be like assault marines, but backed up with land speeders and that kind of thing that could be done.
I see. So a formation
I'm
could
guessing,
be.
yes.
Yes, formation could be similar to what you used to see in the old Epic Army cards.
Yeah,
where you had a battle company will be
absolutely would be
three detachments of tacticals. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, your Space Marines with your rhinos with some support elements of different types. Your scout formation could have scouts, but also some other little bits and pieces, and but I mean how they work, they can play around with those and everything, which is quite cool as we move forwards. And then terrain, they're bringing out some new terrain.
They are.
Yes, damaged terrain.
New old terrain, yeah. The damaged terrain, because they're going to do destructible terrain. It was suspicious when they released the Titanicus. Suspicious is the wrong word, but when they released the Titanicus terrain, or the terrain that came with Titanicus, that it looked just about perfect to be able to drop an infantry stand on top of it. I'm not sure if that's the case.
Well, yeah, but they've gone round.
I'll take that. Yeah,
but
none of this square-based nonsense.
I mean, obviously they're not stupid. Even if they never did Epic, it doesn't take much to design it so you can do Epic.
Give yourself the space,
exactly.
But destructible terrain is going to be awesome.
Potentially, I mean, in Titanicus, it's a pain in the rear, but
but I think in this it allows for it a little bit more comfortably. I mean, it was quite cool having a Titan go in and level a few buildings. That was always having artillery do it. In fact, that's quite fun. Watching the battlefield change around you does mean you've got to get extra terrain, but maybe you don't. Maybe you just do it with markers and stuff. Or you cut up your sprue in a blender
and this is the one with terrain where
some rubbles.
If you are a 3D printer, terrain terrains is just kind of where it comes into play, is it not? And you only have to look at people like Grimdark or whatever it is, and a few of the others online with their Patreons.
Grimdark is particularly phenomenal in terms of what's available there and what can be done. I mean, the kits and the components there for Grimdark, I would recommend anyone who's got a 3D printer or keen on that kind of thing and creating battlefields. Similarly, I mean, they said they're bringing back the terrain that into the range that was available for Titanicus and may have been out of stock or otherwise. I kind of hope, and I had seen someone ask it, and they haven't given an answer yet. I kind of hope they'll bring back the Realm of Battle boards. I'm lucky enough to have a set, and I think it lends itself so well to this game. I'm not sure they will, because I think they're difficult to produce and have their own set of manufacturing problems. But the game looked incredible to be playing this game on those Realm of Battle boards, if you can do so or build something similar. Or you could do something similar, whereas Titanicus is a bit of a challenge over boards like that with maneuvering and stuff over highly molded streets and otherwise, whereas this, where you've got tanks rolling down those streets and infantry running through the rubble-strewn ruins and stuff, that look amazing. So I kind of hope they do it, but I do a chance to do it. I'm not sure.
You need a dice tray if you've got a Realm of Battle board.
You certainly do. You certainly do. Just for the acoustic reasons, if nothing else.
Yeah, big time. I'm sitting here thinking I don't like painting and building terrain. I hate it. And particularly those buildings are just fiddly for me and my big ape hands. And I'm like, if I could, get someone to print me off a load of different kind of stuff and maybe even print roads, and do that kind of thing, then cool. Because roads were important in Epic. You can move quicker on roads.
There's some very good mats out there with roads on at the appropriate scale.
And that's part of the reason why GW don't do these things for very long with mats and things like that. So many options out there that can do it on the scale that don't have to worry about the scale of sales that GW have to worry about if they're producing these things. And that's why they don't do mats and things like that, is because they know that how many they'd have to produce to do it.
Yeah.
And it's just prohibitive compared to what else they're doing. They can't just keep expanding the company into different production things. But yeah, it's looking super cool.
Yeah.
And we're going to get more and more on it.
I'm. It's weird because I'm so keen for it. I'm so excited about it because it's just the game I enjoy probably the most from a certain look and lends itself well to this background. So I was really excited about it, and I suddenly thought, August. I'll wait until August to get this thing in our hands. But actually, that's not that far away.
Right.
Actually, suddenly I realised, hold on, it is July, isn't it? Oh my God! Actually, that's only around the corner.
Yeah.
So it's not that long to wait.
Messaged Henry, and I was like, so when are you dropping how to paint Legions Imperialis in a grey colour scheme? He's like, yeah, it'll be there. Need to find the right contrast paint, I think, and just go to town.
Contrast lends itself to this. I mean, you compare with, which has been really interesting. There's a paint company called Watercolors, for people who may have know about it. It's a little company out of Cyprus. And they did a set of nostalgia paints that are based very much on the GW paints that were released in the 90s, to the point where they were obviously an homage to those. I saw someone pick up a set to do a review online, and he said, I love these purely for the nostalgia feeling, touching on that point we were talking about earlier of these. He said, they are truly faithful to the original paints. And he said, and it is heartening, I think was the word he used, but it was interesting to see the technology that we have now in terms of where paints have gone from that point. Coverage was a nightmare. They were difficult to use. The metallic was difficult to use, all the rest. And he said, utterly faithful to the time, and I remember it being difficult then. Not only did you not have all the resources, endless YouTube videos, endless guides, endless that you had the little fold out tiny piece of paper with a little guide on it saying, base coat this, completely owl, that kind of thing. It was that kind of level of painting. Now, with the techniques and materials we've got available, just even washes alone makes a huge difference for models of this scale, let alone contrast. Contrast, dry brush, wash. Oh my God, it's going to make these things look amazing, and with not a great deal of effort.
Sure.
I hope.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. My only problem with GW paints is they just change them too often. And it's like you lose the colour, and it's like, but bless them. But yeah, I'm gonna have to sit down and work out a quick way of how I'm gonna paint them. And
you could go bold. You could go radical and go for a Legion other than Space Force.
What would I do that? It's a ridiculous concept. Yeah. So hopefully a few guys at the club sound pretty excited about it. So hopefully we'll get a few biters. There are fewer who are like, oh no, can I resist it? Haven't got the money, We shall see.
And like you said, though, for those who have been playing Titanicus, particularly those who have a few knights kicking around, and Aeronautica as well, aircraft in this are going to be really interesting, because I still think Epic 40k did, and then latterly Armageddon did some good stuff with that, where you had to put them in orders. They weren't just very fast units like fast ground attack skimmers or something like that. They really felt like aircraft, like they really screamed in. You had a sense that they were flying around at a much higher altitude doing something. It would be really interesting to see how they do aircraft in this, given that they've got a wealth of models to be able to draw upon and use.
They've talked about warlords. It'll be interesting to see if they talk about the war masters.
Because they're going to be powerful, aren't they?
Well, yeah, but also the one thing about an epic scale is the problem with Adeptus Titanicus is the board is only so long. So as you get bigger and bigger machines. Like the board doesn't matter. Like if you're a shooting machine, just like all my guns are way in range. But in Epic, that scale, a warlord might not be in range of anything first turn, potentially if you've deployed it badly. If you got a volcano cannon, yeah, probably. But if you choose other weapons, you might not be able to shoot it quite how you think you can shoot it if you've been playing AT. So immediately I saw 2 or 3 comments about Imperator Titans. I'm still not 100% sure how they work in a game like that because they're such a point sink and they have to be able to reach stuff to be able to work, and it's a little bit like that. But the old Imperator versus the Gargants was fun back in the day. I remember it being fun. And I know it'll be interesting to see how. I mean, the Titans are going to have to be much simplified from Titanicus.
Oh god, yes, for sure.
Because
there won't be any reactor management in this.
No, exactly. Or limited, very limited. Well, I mean, literally, like
handled in a different way. Yeah, you got like a boost
absolutely.
to this
Yeah,
or
like
something, yeah.
There's, you have to roll a dice every time you do something, and it adds reactor.
Yeah.
Like every time you activate, like you could add reactor heat, and then you have to end a turn. You have to try and get rid of some or whatever. A very simplified version of doing that. But if you have that allows you to have Titans which have rules, or weapons which have rules which increase or decrease reactor heat. Like +1 to the dice roll, -1 to the dice roll. Those kind of things can still be a part of the game without slowing the game down.
Yeah.
Again, you're not going to get a battle tech. I've hit his left part of his groin, and it's on his 3rd damage point.
You used to in Epic.
You used to.
Good old location dice, but no, you won't be doing that.
You're not going to be getting that. If it's terrible. None of us have got the time to play those games anymore.
No, none of us have the time or the space, because you did need all the little data sheets and cards and stuff.
Frankly, to do that anymore. If they start selling these with polyhedral dice, then you're in danger. Yeah. But I don't know. It is what it is. It's good.
It does give a whole new design space, though. For example, I can see an Imperator working more in this than I can in Titanicus.
Oh, big time! Yeah, because in Titanicus you're gonna have to set it in the corner of the board so it can't get flanked, and it shoots everything, or they hide, and that's not fun.
No, it's a different game.
It's good or it's not.
It's different. Yeah, the simplified mechanic will actually allow that to exist, and you'll have the range. Same as the range of weapons. I mean, there's weapons in Titanicus that just are subpar on certain units. I'm immediately thinking of flamers on warhounds. They're niche at best. Whereas in this, suddenly opens up a whole new thing.
10 assault marines want to fly forwards, but you've got a warhound sitting just out of range of them. They're not going to want to come near a big flamer.
No,
it's not going to happen.
Your tactical company of solar auxiliary troops running across in open ground, and then a warhound walks around the corner with a flamer.
They're desperately hoping that the Lehman Russes come around and open fire all at once at it, because that's the only way they're going to survive it. Yeah, absolutely. It allows each weapon to have more opportunity to shine.
It will be interesting to see if this game has a suppression mechanic. What were blast markers in the later editions? No one's
seen blast markers. I'm sure there will be a suppression mechanic. I think it will be done probably with a morale kind of aspect to it. But yeah, I can imagine it having something like that, because partly because it creates a game state which is probably needed in a game like this. If everything can almost move freely unless it's running away all the time, it kind of breaks the immersion a bit and allows more things. But I'm sure it will have something like that. It won't work the same, I'm sure. But there'll be some way of achieving that. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I agree.
I can see a lot of people's armies early on being Titans, mainly Titans of various kinds. Fine, cool.
But I think there's quite a few. I think there's quite a few knights out there as well. I think quite a few people have picked up knights as part of packs. It's amazing how they start to add up. You're like, oh yeah, I've just got this, just got that, and some have come in that starter set and this starter set. And you're like, suddenly I've got quite a few knights. So I can see that. It'd be interesting to see how they play as a viable force or not.
Well, again, as well, I mean, the beauty of it is you're going to have rules for all these different things. You don't have to play with some Space Marines. You can just play with your Knights versus Titans, Knights and Titans versus Knights and Titans as a probably a legal army, and that could be quite cool if you want a bit of a break from playing AT in that style. Particularly with Knights in AT, they can be, a little bit funny. And so it offers up that, but and the beautiful thing we haven't really mentioned yet is those guns are going to have AT rules.
They are confirmed via several conversations. No,
and in
it does look like Aeronautica in its current form is going to continue. I believe this. I don't know where they said this. I think it might be on the Games Workshop store or it's on the dedicated games page, because most games I think have a dedicated page. I have seen someone take a screenshot and say certain things. So a lot of the non-heresy specific packs, which includes Tau, Eldar, Orcs, have gotten last chance to buy. But it did seem that what's it called? Aeronautica Heresy?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. There was a book that they released that is a heresy specific or Age of Darkness specific version of Aeronautica Imperialis. That is continuing, but there's a bunch of the kits are going on last chance to buy. So Aeronautica, a version of Aeronautica, is going forward, but it is an Age of Darkness specific version rather than
and why would you not? Because you're making the models anyway for this game. Indeed. So you might as well keep the rules set alive for those specific
Titanicus
models.
Sounds like it's similar. Except it's not having a range reduction. The range is continuing as before. And they have, numerous people have asked, will these weapons get rules in Titanicus? And they have answered categorically, yes.
They said it on the preview, but yeah, as well. Yeah, absolutely, which is great. And the really weapons are becoming plastic as well. So yeah, you can pick up your, some claws.
So there's two weapons that we already have that are going to go plastic, which is great, cheaper, more accessible, etc. And two new ones, including one that is a bit of a staple of old, which was the melter cannon on a Warhound, which you used to be able to get, and now you can again. And a whole new kind of weapon, which is the pistol launcher.
Yeah, absolutely. Loads of cool stuff. And then with the nature of having infantry, do we get some of those and having planes in the game? Do we then get some of the older like launch pads, those kind of things which didn't necessarily fit into AT, but certainly.
Oh, I see. On Titans, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Some of the more esoteric,
slightly weirder
have a role,
things. Have more of a role in Legions Imperialis.
The one everyone loves, the Caestus assault ram.
Yeah.
Not the flying one, not the one that's on the fist, where you've got a bunch of Terminators inside. It's like,
exactly.
Yes, please.
Makes much more sense in this game.
It did occur to me they haven't done a Stormbird yet, and because there's some. Sure I would encourage anyone who's interested in Epic or otherwise to check out some of the old classic artwork of Epic, and you've got some fantastic imagery of, a Stormbird as it was then, coming into land and a load of assault marines launching out of the front assault ramp. So having something like that happen is going to be amazing.
Oh, is the Primarch release at the end of the year, is that an Epic Primarch?
That would be amazing.
It would be such.
They've done that troll. They've done that once with the Thunderhawk. They've done that joke.
I can see them releasing one and releasing the Epic version at the same time,
which would be hilarious.
Because
how quick would be someone would say, "Don't come near me and my son again. Don't talk to my son like that again," or something.
They've got to put the Primarchs in, haven't they?
Yeah, definitely.
So, it's going to be awesome.
Oh, come on, that's where we saw Demon Primarchs for the first time.
Exactly, it'll be super cool. So super cool. I'm really looking forward to this release. And then, of course, does the Solar Auxiliary, like when you make a file in CAD, you can't just divide it by a quarter, and then print it and say it's that. They have to change things of it. However, they still have the files in CAD, which they can then pull,
Still a
move
basis or
about.
something. Yeah.
So
You can
is
add
Solar
detail. You
Auxilia
can
the
work on
army?
it. Yeah.
Is Solar Auxilia the new army we're getting at the end of the year? Probably makes sense now.
There's a lot of talk about that, isn't there? There's a lot of speculation on that, which is it's sounding a pretty good bet, actually.
Yeah.
Who knows? But that would be possible. Surprise army. Yeah.
Which is super cool.
Still a lot of people thinking it'll be Imperial Army rather than Solar Auxilia. I've seen still quite a lot of people theorising about that, or even Dark Mechanicum. But I would have thought now the smart money is on Solar Auxilia.
Because of new army, I think that was why I lent towards Dark Mechanicum. Because Solar Auxilia is not a new army to Heresy, but it would be to 2.0.
Yeah.
But yeah, these releases kind of push me towards Solar Auxilia. Cool, whatever. It's good, you know. So yeah. So this show
we should have quite a nice lot of coverage on Warhammer Community over the coming weeks, in the coming few weeks, which is very exciting. Can't wait to see that.
Yeah. So what we're going to do with this show is make it. This is the Imperial Truth, a Horus Heresy Age of Darkness podcast, and therefore we are probably going to cover whatever we're doing within the whole umbrella title of Age of Darkness Gaming, which is 4 games now.
Yeah.
I don't play Aeronautica very much. The guy I used to play at the club doesn't come down anymore. He's moved off elsewhere. But it's a fun game. I do enjoy playing it. I want to play Legions. Still want to play more AT, and definitely want to play more Heresy when I can carry more heavy stuff to the club. So that's what we're going to do moving forward for the show. So yeah,
it's exciting times. I thought it was exciting times just the last year or so where we've had Heresy.
I mean, look at us
28 mil come out.
I
know how much of it there is. Yeah.
So yeah, it's super cool. Just hoping the wallet doesn't suffer too much, because I think someone misunderstood me when I put on the phone like this is going to be expensive, and I think they meant like this Games Workshop, of course, it's expensive kind of thing. Not in a terrible way, just in that kind of way. And I'm like, no, not the price of what it is, the desire to purchase it all.
Yeah.
It's like,
I think there's going to be a fair bit of having to remember that it will be around for a while. You don't have to get it on day one release kind of thing. You can stagger these things. But there is going to be a bit of hype here that's going to make that quite a challenge to resist all of that. But yeah, you got to be sensible.
Yeah, and we're also out of Leviathan, so we don't have to worry about them spending 90% of their production capacity on a box set, which shocker didn't sell out. Whoa.
Yeah.
But that affected everything for a long time.
Sold out, sort of, but didn't. Wasn't that hard to get a hold of? Yeah.
It's still very available. So yeah.
Exciting weeks ahead, I think, here for everything Age of Darkness. And it is a fantastic scale to play the Age of Darkness in. And that's before you get into the discussion of linked games, where you have a linked game with something happening, let's say a Zone Mortalis game happening, which is influencing what's happening in a much larger scale Epic game. Yeah, can't wait.
Worries. Should we leave that there then, and we'll come back?
Well, we've covered a lot of stuff, haven't we? And we'll get back into the meaty subjects and we'll go through those. But I think that's a pretty good summary of where we are.
Awesome. Cheers, Howard.
Good to speak to you, buddy.
Thank you for listening to another episode of The Imperial Truth. As I said, we're going to try and catch up a little bit, so I'm not sure when the next video is next podcast is out, but we will try and get back on track as quickly as we can. Thank you for bearing with us. still waiting for an operation. So fingers crossed that goes all right and I can get back to normal life. But who knows? And there's strikes and things going on. So yeah, we're doing our best, but life has its way of kind of confusing and getting in the way. So we're trying. As we said in the show, we are going to now be including any kind of Adeptus Titanicus chat, Aeronautica Imperialis, Heresy, and Legiones, or Legions Imperialis. I keep calling it Legiones. Legions Imperialis chat as well in the show. So what you will see on the show thread now is I'm going to repost the full Stride episodes we've done onto the main show, so they're as a resource they're there and available on this feed, and eventually shut down the full Stride feed as well. But that content we've got for Titanics will be included in the show. How we're going to go about it and everything's still a little bit up in the air, but we will try and get that done. Might make the show a little bit longer in places because we will do like Legion reviews or whatever. But it won't be dominated or anything like that. And as usual, we have timestamps, so you can just scroll to whichever part of the show. If you're not interested in a certain aspect of it, you can just scroll through. But you never know, maybe it'll be something of interest for you going forwards. That just cleans everything up, makes things a lot easier for me, and it just takes the pressure off a little bit. Just looking back, as I was editing the show, we talked about the price of the new box, and we stated the price of £150 quite a lot. Of course, the Age of Darkness box was £180 from GW. I think in my head I was thinking 150 because that's it ends up below 150 if you're buying it from a third-party retailer in the UK usually. So where we talk about 150 a lot, I wouldn't be surprised if it's nearer 180. But we will find out fairly soon because it's early July and it will only be August at some point that it's actually released. So exciting times. And more hobby building up to do, I'm sure. But that's all part of the fun, isn't it? Now, if you've got any questions, any comments, any requests, anything like that, you can email Greg at theimperialtruth.com. The website has migrated to a different platform. Haven't done anything with it because that's happened while I've been ill. But we might be able to make the website a little bit prettier, hopefully, maybe a little bit more useful, you never know. So that's theimperialtruth.com as well. The show's on Twitter at imperial_truth. However long Twitter's going to be running, probably there is I personally have joined Threads, deciding what to do with the show account and everything else. Having multiple accounts everywhere for various different things can get a bit annoying at times, but also has benefits in being separate. But you can follow me at Child of Fang on Instagram, Threads, and Twitter. The show's also got the Facebook page, and all these links are in the show notes. So if you're missing out on any of those, then head to the show notes. Also got a Patreon if you feel you want to support us beyond just listening and telling your friends. That would be wonderful. No pressure on anyone to do that. There's nothing locked behind a paywall. It's just a way of, if you deem you want to give something back to the show, then that's very welcome. And thank anyone who's ever done that. But I think that's roughly about it. Even with this gap, there's still a lot we need to catch up on, a lot to talk about. We've now got a date for, Amazon have got a date for End of the Death Part 2, which is creeping up on us. How accurate it is, we shall have to wait and see. But that's all exciting stuff, and I'm working on plans around that. We'll have to see about people getting back to me and that kind of thing. But Heresy, man, it's going good in multiple formats. and doesn't look like slowing down much either. So that's all gravy as far as us hobbyists are concerned. Oh, I did want to say, I was supposed to be running an event at the end of July. I did put it out there on various pages and Twitter and everything that I've had to cancel it because of the illness and not being sure that I can actually run it. I wanted to make that decision early so people can, adjust their plans and rebook things and what have you. And it looks like it's going to be the right decision to cancel it from my point of view and the struggles that it would be to put it on. So many apologies for that. Firestorm should have handed out the refunds for those tickets, and we'll have to see what we can do going forwards. But it won't be anything for Heresy this year, that's for sure. And maybe I'll be reviewing how I go about that kind of thing next year as well. But thank you for bearing with us on that if you were coming. But that's about it. I think we'll be back fairly soon, I hope. So we might as well just leave it here for now. You have been listening to The Imperial Truth.